And there we go. So, Bill, I'm gonna give it to you.
Perfect, Matthew. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for attending today. I'll certainly give you a nice overview of how you might choose to use our database to reach out to either businesses and or perhaps people as it relates to the type of nonprofit work you might be interested in gathering information for. So we can certainly do that. I want to give you a brief little tour of some tools that are available for you as well. So I'll just start with some of those housekeeping items first. So again, with Reference Solutions, you have access to all of these modules, these 8 modules, and each of these update at a little different time frame. So our US business database, which gets the lion's share of attention, we've been in business since 1972, and this is what we started with. So this is kind of our baby, right? And we go about updating that information by calling these businesses once a year in our universe, and we have some 16 million, just shy of 16 million verified records. We call those businesses to verify, obviously, the name of the business, their address information. Since they answered the phone call, we know that that phone number is correct. And then we capture information like who might be that owner or manager of that business. What line of business are they in? If they happen to know the square footage of that office or that building that they're in. And we also capture the number of employees that they have. So as we're gathering this data through each of our phone calls, and we've got about 350 researchers that are making these phone calls, we're pushing those updates live every Thursday into Friday morning. So know that this is being updated weekly, 52 times a year, whereas our US historical business information, that's technically being updated at the beginning of every new year. Our jobs and internships, this is a relationship that we have with Indeed.com. This is being updated every day. Our US new business filings, we're getting this through our Secretary of State relationships, and we're updating this weekly. Our US healthcare, our standard white pages, along with our consumer lifestyles, those are all updated monthly. And then last but not least, our US new movers, new homeowners. That information, we're getting that from a license agreement that we have with the USPS National Change of Address. So we're updating that every week. So if you need to know about new consumer or new people to your community, that's a great way to get in front of them. And if you are working with a nonprofit agency, what better audience perhaps to get in front of to let them know about your existence within the community and what you have to offer the community. So great group of people to be able to research there. So with that, I also like to point out, we have under the Learning Center some information that you might want to be able to get access to, and that would be, as soon as this opens, under the marketing and training material, if you open this up, we have these database overviews. So if you're doing some work in the US business database, for example, maybe you're looking up businesses that might be best sponsors of yours, right? You can certainly utilize this information. It'll walk you through how to do some of the various searches that I'm going to show you today. So know that we have an overview for each of our modules listed here. We even have a data dictionary listed for our business and consumer information. So if you had a question about a specific data element, you might likely get your answer from one of those. So know that that is always available to you. And I'm just going to go back to my home page here. And with getting access to the database, you will need a library card and use that barcode. I'll show you at the conclusion where you can find our listing in order to be able to do that. And you'll know you're in as soon as you see that Midland County logo listed there. That's a quick clue that, hey, I'm in the database. The other couple of tools we have here, if you're an app user and would like to download our app, that's free of charge. When you go to launch that, you'll be asked to put in your zip code, at which time you're going to be presented with a listing of libraries in the area. You would click on yours, enter your library card number, and you're in. So that's certainly something that you can use. And with this particular module, there are two with the app, I should say, there are two modules available, the US Business and the US Consumer Lifestyles. And then we also give you the ability, we know that a lot of library patrons want to be able to download our information. Maybe they're going to drop that in Excel and then use that as a call document. Certainly, we have a lot of folks that want to be able to do that, but if you'd rather simply save that search, you could create your own personal account. And once you've registered, you can log in and you can save any of your searches that you might do in any of these modules. So know that that would be something you could do as opposed to perhaps downloading a lot of information. Tends to be pretty useful for some folks. I'm going to go ahead and launch the US Business Database. And I see here that Matthew has mentioned that if you should have any questions, feel free to send through a text and Matthew will be kind enough to interrupt me and I'll give you a response to whatever your question may be as I'm at that part of the database. So certainly I'll open the US Business Database. And no matter which module I open up, I'm always going to come to a quick search page first. The reason I like to point out using this company name, maybe you have a business, a local business that you do, that you interact with that might be a part of, maybe they offer some sponsorship to your organization and you would like to find more businesses like them. You could look up that one company by name and every single one of our records has a coding number in it. It's called the SIC code. You're probably familiar with that. That's the Standard Industrial Classification Code. The reason I point that out is you might want to jot that code down and then you could use that code to do a larger search. And I'll show you how that can be done. So I could look up one company. Maybe there was an executive that was at a company that you had a relationship with and learned that that person's no longer there. If you wanted to try and find that person, you could do that executive first name, last name search. Hopefully you'll have that city and state that they're in to kind of narrow that down. You could even do a reverse phone number lookup. But most of the time, people go right to the advanced search because there are so many more filters that you can utilize. And by the way, additional filters goes to the same place, advanced search. So let me go ahead and open that. And here's where I can begin using a number of these filters that are on this left-hand column. The difference that I'm seeing here with company name versus what I saw with quick search where I could look up one company at a time, this simply allows me to do multiple companies at a time. So if I wanted to look up IBM, for example, I could add that to my list. If I wanted to also include Delta, I could add that to my list. So I can put in as many companies by name and then simply select my geography. Otherwise, we'll always give you in your list the name of the company that is the ownership of that record. We also have executive information. So perhaps you need to find owners of companies. You could come under this executive title because we may have also captured managers or other titles, right? So if you wanted owners only, you could certainly do that and drive in just records with an owner present. Or maybe a manager would suffice. If that's the case, you could always put that in as well, and you'll get for sure one or the other, maybe in some cases both. So no, you can always use that as a filter. In fact, any of these would be filter capabilities for you. Keywords are generally the way that people do most of their searching, as it notes here. For example, if I wanted to look up restaurants, so I can look up any type of business by that business type. So if I wanted manufacturing, I could go that route. Just depends on what I need to be able to look up. I'll show you that. I'll show you an example of that in a second here. And I am going to ask a question, so you can be thinking about this until I get to that point. What types of industries would you like to see? What types of businesses would be beneficial for your organization? And it could be businesses by type, or it could be businesses by size. And I'll show you what I mean here in a moment. We also have the major industry group, which is just the SIC codes. So if I open that up as an option, notice when Uncle Sam was using this particular coding system, it always started off with a 2-digit number. So for example, under construction, there are 3 2-digit numbers. If I want to see the definitions for those, I can certainly click on that plus symbol and get to that. If for some reason I was interested in general contractors, I can click on that plus symbol and get even more detail, right? And this was the extent that Uncle Sam had with the codes. They went to a 4-digit code. We've actually made it a bit more granular, and I'll show you what I mean. If I go under general contractors with single family houses, for example, maybe I'm doing something with Habitat for Humanity, and I wanted to reach out to some general contractors. Bingo, I can get to this kind of detail. So it just depends on how granular you need to be able to get. So there's my all-inclusive for general contractors. Great way to be able to use the database to get to that level of data. So know that that is something that you could also utilize versus perhaps doing that keyword. I will show you this map-based search option as well. This can be a great tool to use. The rest of this kind of is self-explanatory. Same with the phone information. So when we're making those verification phone calls, we're always asking those businesses how many employees they have. Like I mentioned, 72% of them roughly will give us an exact number. Those that don't, we look at their peers in that area, and then we'll apply a range. So if you see an exact number on a record, we got that in that phone call. You see that range, we applied that because they didn't respond to that particular question. And conversely, we learned a long time ago as a business, you don't ask another business how much money they're making and not have that phone call end rather abruptly. So we actually have a staff here in Omaha that put together an algorithm that then supports that sales volume. They're using information like that number of employees, the line of business that business is in, how long they've been in business. They also look at where they're in business at because of the variables related to that. You can imagine doing business in where I'm at, Omaha, Nebraska, versus Manhattan, New York. It's going to be a lot more costly to do business in downtown Manhattan than it probably is in downtown Omaha. So we take all of that into account. We also get some information through the Bureau of Labor and Statistics in order to be able to finalize that algorithm. So know that that's always modeled information. And the same is true as it relates to business expenditures. Ownership. We talked about being able to look for records with an owner present. Maybe I only want to look at private companies in my community. I could make that one of my drivers if I wanted to or needed to. I could certainly, maybe I'm looking at single location businesses, if that's what I need, or maybe I want a headquarters. I could certainly search that way as well. Just depends on what you might need. Otherwise, we'll always give you all four of those in our output. Home-based businesses, if you have a need, maybe you're going to do a search in a general area to see what businesses are there. If you did not want home-based businesses perhaps to show up, you could exclude those, or you could only look at home-based businesses. Just depends on what your needs might be. We'll always give you this financial data where that's available. Special selections. If you would like to know about newer businesses in your community, this can be a great way to filter those in. You can select that, and maybe you want to look at the last 2 or 3 years in your community, or any community for that matter. Obviously, it's the entire United States. You can certainly use that as a filter in order to be able to get to those newer businesses. Or gosh, maybe you need businesses that have been around for some period of time. Maybe the high water mark for you is 12 years and older. You could certainly do it that way as well. So we get lots of different users that are using the database. You know, some are using it to identify sales leads. Well, we know that with nonprofits, they're always looking to establish relationships with other businesses in a similar fashion to somebody that's looking to perhaps sell a product. In this case, it's about that organization that I'm trying to sell to for perhaps sponsorship or some type of involvement. So no, you can use any of these filters. Professionals, all are one. The system is set up to always default to all, and those professionals would be doctors, dentists, CPAs, attorneys. If you were going to produce a list and you knew that some of those professionals would be in that area, so they would show up in your list perhaps, you could choose to go from all to one, and what we would give you is the primary attorney at that office that as we know them. So it'll drive in fewer records for you, but it'll give you that point of contact that you might want to have to establish that relationship. So no, you can certainly always use this filter as well. And then you can filter out, maybe you're going to look in an entire county, but you want to omit one city. Or maybe I'm going to look in a city, but I want to omit a couple of zip codes. You could certainly do that. Even previously saved searches could be omitted. So know that you can drive in whatever maybe you're going to look at an area, but you would rather not have, let's say, bars show up in that listing in that particular area. You could do a keyword search for those bars and just exclude them from your output. The same thing is true. We do have records for, if you're familiar with red boxes and those types of kiosks, we do have records for them. So if you were doing a general search in an area, but you didn't want those kinds of kiosks to come up, you could certainly exclude that as well. No, you can just about, not everything, but just about do nearly everything you would probably need to do to look up a business. So I'm going to use this keyword search. Is there a particular industry that anyone would like me to look at that I might be able to pull up as an example? Matthew, did you see anything pop up there? If not, I'll just grab a particular industry. That's quite all right.
No ideas yet.
Okay. I'm just going to do that. I'll just grab, let's say that we're interested in manufacturing. And this is quite a large group, as you can imagine. Let me just open this. Look at how deep manufacturing gets. So everything from food products to those kinds of miscellaneous manufacturers, right? I had a gentleman I was helping look for manufacturers that put together or that manufacture railroad ties using creosote. So we had to go into here to find that. So I'm just going to select all manufacturing. And then it's just a matter of how do I want to do that? If I want to do that from a county perspective, it's as simple as obviously getting my Texas down here. And then I can just do Midland. Bingo, I'm ready to go. If I don't need to use any other filters, if I didn't want to use perhaps number of employees, and I realize in some cases you might want to, I could drive in those manufacturers that have certain types of employment numbers. So maybe I want to grab this 20 to 49 and 50 to 99. What do I have? This is my total universe of all those businesses that we have verified. But when I select update count, it's going to tell me I've got 70 of those across the county. If I want to get into that information, it's as simple as viewing my results. So sign engravers, not a surprise. They're considered a type of manufacturer, right? So let's just go into this very first one. I've got this address information here for them. Phone information as well. We get that feed through Indeed, but they don't have any job openings that Indeed has identified. That's why that's empty. I've got their sign manufacturers. So that's their primary SIC code is for sign manufacturers. Then they have a couple of other secondary, and there are their NAICS codes. If you're not familiar with the NAICS codes, that's the North American Industrial Classification System code. It's technically supposed to have replaced these, but these kind of do a better job since we've modeled them or managed them for so long. We've been able to make them so much more granular. Got a business profile here on this particular company, been around since 1974. We have Google Maps embedded in here. So if that would be something that you would like, you have access to that kind of information as well. Notice you can print this off. You could change it up to that satellite view if you wanted to. You could even use the street view. Just depends on what you need to be able to do. And in this particular record, so we updated them in February. We're trying to get them now in 21 to get them updated again. As you can imagine, when we make our phone calls, we don't always reach them on the first try. So we'll attempt for a total of 12 times throughout the course of 2 years to keep a record verified. If in fact we aren't able to get a hold of them, we don't learn that they've closed, we'll put them in our unverified status, but this is a verified record. So I have their that number of employees. So when we did contact them back in February of 20, they told us they had 20 employees at this location. Been in our database for about 36 years. Every single one of our records has a unique identifier, and that's this IUSA number. So that information is captured there. I've got that management directory. Again, if I wanted to be able to identify one of these individuals that I perhaps am going to reach out to about my nonprofit, there I have a choice of those 4. Company news, we get this fed through Bing. So it will either be about the company or the industry. You can certainly always load that. No stock data because this is a private company. There are those business expenditures followed by some historical data. And then UCC filing. So if they took out, so they did in 2000, they took out a loan and that was the filing source ID for that particular UCC filing they did. We have then nearby businesses, because again, we have that latitude and longitude in the background. And then we have their competitors. So everyone is going to be set up, and these competitors are always going to be based on that primary SIC code. So if I wanted to look at other manufacturers, I could certainly do that. And I'm assuming that Odessa is also in the county there, or very close. So I could go into any of these other ones if I would like. Maybe I want to get into Apex, and I can look at that record. Again, another one of those verified records. We've got that address information here, that phone number, etc. So every record is going to be set up in a similar fashion. If when I come into a record, I would like to immediately see what's available from a management directory, I can simply click on that and it will take me right to that management directory. So again, depending on what you might need to be able to get at, you've got that kind of access. Let's go back here because I did see, and I can always get back to my original record. There it is. I did see, and I want to come back to the top here, and I'll go back to my original list. I do want to point out, notice you have the ability to download. If you would like to extract some of this information, you have the ability to download 250 records, or you can print them off, right? So each of our pages is 25 records in length. If I wanted all 25 records on this page, I can come to this box right here, select it, and then advance to my next page. Repeat that step, and you would simply do that. Since you've got 250, that'd be 10 pages. If it will advance for me. Oh, of course, I only have 70, so I'm never going to get to 250 at this rate. If I want to download those 70, I simply select download. And then I'm given this option first, comma delimited. If you intended on making mailing labels, this is definitely what you would want to use. It still drops it into a form of Excel. If the name of the business, their address, phone number, we would give you some additional elements like that owner or manager's name and title, the number of employees, their sales volumes, etc. All that would be captured in this summary document, and it's presented to you in this Excel spreadsheet. So know that you can, we only took out 70 because that was all the larger my audience was. But if I had 500, I could have taken out all 500, 250 at a time. In fact, if you're going to do something like that, I would suggest opening your own Excel document, because each of my documents are static. I can't add anything more to this record, but you could if you dropped it in yours. So you could always do a copy from here and drop it into your own version of Excel, and then keep adding to that if you would like. That way you're not saving multiple Excel documents under different names to try and track that. You could have them all under one document. Then you would simply come back here. You would minimize yours, of course, come back here, close mine, and you're always given the ability to go back. And the one thing you'll always want to remember, granted, I only have 3 pages here, but if I wanted more records, I need to get rid of these check marks first. Otherwise, I'll continue producing the same. So in order to do that, just click on Revise Search. It doesn't forget how you built your search. Then you can view your results again. It leaves you on page 1, and it's taken all those check marks so that you can get another group of 250 if there were really that many available to us. So no, you can always do that. If you see where they have a corporate tree structure here, The up arrow will take you to one record and one record only, and that would be either the subsidiary, and if there weren't a subsidiary along the way, it would take you to the ultimate parent. When you see a down arrow like this one, this is the ultimate parent because it's pointing at the rest of the business, right? So when you open the org chart, it will show you everything. So let's go right here to this one. So I've got that as their one, and notice they don't have a subsidiary or a branch. So I'm going to go back to my listing. I want to get one with an org chart I can show you. Let's go to this one. There we go. So I have Baker Hughes Company out of Houston, Texas. They have one subsidiary and some 191 branches. Notice I have this legend that runs across the top here, so I can quickly identify what this PC is. That's a publicly traded company. If I wanted to get down to this other subsidiary, I could simply either scroll down. In this case, that's what I'm going to need to do because I don't have another sub to close. And I may have already gone by it when I was drilling so quickly here. There it is. So just depends on what you need to be able to do. Great information and all within a matter of a couple of clicks. In fact, let's do this. Let's open this record real quick. I'll go back here and we'll open up the Baker Hughes. I can also get to that corporate tree structure inside the record. So as you're using this information, you might want to study, if you're not familiar with that particular company, might want to study that corporate structure so you could gain some more insights that you may end up using in a conversation with this company about your nonprofit. Any questions so far? Okay, let's go ahead and I'm going to go back to my list. I want to show you another tool. I can obviously download this. I can print that. If I wanted to save this search, I'm not able to just select certain records that I'd like to save. It saves the entire search, not just a few of the results. So know that when you save the search, it's all 70 records. And notice it does mention here 7 of these are with email addresses, and then it gives you more information. Basically, you're going to be directed to contact our office here in Omaha. We sell that information. We don't make it available on the records. You can imagine if all the libraries that have access to our product made that, and these email addresses were made available through that, how quickly those email addresses would probably go sour. Because anybody and everybody could mail to them, right? So we do sell that. And you can certainly reach out to us and get any kind of pricing on what you would need for an email campaign that you might want to do. And there's 2 ways you can do that. You can either just purchase those emails and you're allowed to use them for that year, or if you would prefer, we could do the entire email blast for you from start to finish. Just depends on what you might need. So know you can always reach out to us about that. And I'm going to revise this search slightly since we have so many of these businesses. In fact, I'll take out this employment number simply because I want to be able to get to this 397 and show you some of these ways that you might look at this. In fact, we'll do it real quick this way. I'm going to chart this information. This might be a tool that you would want to use. It will first give you that breakdown by those different types of manufacturers. So there are 22 of them that fall under this particular SIC code versus petroleum producer manufacturers. There are 21, etc. I get a full report if I come down here. So you get a total of 12 pages with all of these 370, and then it gives you that primary SIC code they're under, that description, and the number of records that apply to that. So if I wanted to get to this group of printers, I could just click on that number 8 and get to those particular manufacturers. Just depends on what you would like to do. You can also change this up. Maybe you want to look at it from an employment size. You can get that kind of breakdown. So of that 397, almost 32% of these, or 127, employ 1 to 4 employees, followed by 5 to 9, 10 to 19. And sometimes these, this is really followed the ranges one after the other. But a lot of times you will see in certain demographics where you might see 1 to 4, but it only represents really 13%. Just depends on the industry. I could change this up to sales volumes if I would like, and it gives me that breakdown. So notice 1 million to 2.5 million sits in that first place at a little over 23%, followed by less than 500,000 at almost 16%. So certainly of any of those breakdowns you can utilize. And by the way, all of this can be printed off, or it can be made part of a PowerPoint presentation if you'd like to. So know that that's available to you under the charts feature. And then I also have, we refer to it as our heat map, although I don't want to wish heat on you. So we'll call it a density map. Although we would like some heat up here in Omaha, just a little bit more. We've already had 91 or 2 already. We don't want that. So with the heat map, it will give you this kind of view. And where you see these couple of red areas, there are lots of manufacturers in those areas where it's more yellow, less, green even less, and of course, no color. Here's one out here all by itself. Maybe that's one of those oil, petroleum opportunities there. So it gives you that kind of breakdown. And it notes here, if you change this to where it's 300 or fewer records, this is what you'll see. And I'll just drill in maybe a couple of times. Yes. And then it's going to pinpoint all of those locations. It gives you this legend on this side. Maybe I want to get to this particular record. I can click on it and it will take me to where that location is at. So it just depends on what you need to be able to do with the information. That could be a great tool that you could use as well. I'm going to go back to my results. The other tool I want to show you, I'm going to revise my search slightly. I can change at any point in time that I need to, right? Just depends on what I want to look for. I want to show you, instead of looking at it from the county standpoint, let's do it using the map search tool. And by the way, this tool is available in many of our modules, as are the charts and the heat map. I'm going to open up my map tool. And it will always bring me to this view of the United States in the upper left-hand corner here. I'm going to tell the system where I want to go. I could be putting in a physical address, maybe where my nonprofit is at, and then I want to do a radius around my nonprofit. I could put in that address along with that city and state and do that kind of a search. Let's do this. I will, Matthew, what's a zip code there in Midland? I'll just use a zip code to zoom in.
Let's do 79701.
All right, and go. So there I am in that zip centroid for Midland. And I'm going to back out just a little bit so I can see a little bit more of the community there. Oh, so that's how close Odessa is. Okay, it's a stone's throw. So I have these different tools that are available to me. I can draw my own shape. So if I wanted to look down this corridor, it's a single click to begin it. Maybe I want to go right down this corridor and come back up here to Midland, another single click to change direction. and maybe I want to go right over to here and come right back down here. Maybe this is my shape that I needed. I can double click to finish it, and then it will calculate how many are in that particular area that I just drew. If that's all I need, bingo, I can say done here. And as you can see, I'm ready to give you those 521 records. But I'm not quite done yet. Let's imagine for a moment that you went, you know what? I probably shouldn't have gone quite so far into Odessa. Well, you could always delete this and redraw your shape, but I do want to show you another option you have. You could say, gosh, you know what? I'm going to start right here, and I'm just going to, maybe I'm going to make my shape like this. And then you can just follow that outline. I was never very good at following the line though. And then double click to finish it. So there are 275 out of this 521 that are in this area. I can double click in there and exclude that from my output if I want to. So just depends on what I need to be able to do. And then we'll give you those 246 records. So know you can use this tool. You could use a true radius. I mentioned that maybe you wanted to do a radius around where your organization is located, physically located. You could do a true radius. With this one, you simply click it, hold it, and drag it away in any direction that you want to go. So notice I'm already out to 6 miles there. I'll stop here at 7. Then you simply let go and it will calculate how many are in that area. If that's all you need, bingo, you say done and view your results, and you'll have those 304 results. So you can use this tool with any, we're looking at just manufacturers, but it could be any type of business. I'm going to delete that shape. Here are some of my predetermined boundaries. And I can tell you right now that this neighborhood feature isn't functioning. I checked early this morning to see if there was any notice about this being working again, and I didn't see one. So that does not function, but the rest of them do. And what you can do is, for example, if you wanted to overlay the area zip codes, there's that 701 for this particular example, but I can click in any of these and it will tally how many are in each of those locations. So if that's all I wanted, were those 2 zip codes, bingo, I can say done and grab those. And I also have the ability to create a drive route, and that's really quite simple. You can just put in a starting address. It could be a city. You know, we could be looking, let's do this. Let's go Midland. And I can't remember how far is Dallas from you all? Or perhaps Fort Worth? We'll find out.
I want to say it's 300 miles, but I have no
Was it
idea.
that far? Let me see. Let me see what this does. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Maybe I went too far. So I'll go 1 for 1 mile. So I'm creating my buffer distance 1 mile north and south of that roadway that it would take me on. So there it is. So it is that. Wow. So there are 469 results within 1 mile of this roadway that it took me down. And if that's all I needed, I could simply say done here and then view my results. And I have all 469 of those. So know you can use all of these tools by which to produce whatever kinds of results you might need. Any questions on the business information? I do want to show you that new movers, new homeowners information. Well, actually, I'll show you the consumer lifestyles, because we have folks that are charitable donors in there. If you need to reach out to charitable donors, you can do that, and you do it just like this. Just select reference solutions. This is my navigation option. And it brings me right back here to my homepage. And let's say that you want to go into the consumer lifestyles because you're going to reach out. You've got a campaign that you're going to do with consumers. You can reach out to, like I mentioned, those people that are charitable donors, and you can do it just like this. So we're getting this information through a variety of sources. So surveys that people have completed, the maybe magazines that people are having sent to their residents, memberships that people have joined. So I can go right to advanced search and I can tell the system, I want to look, let's go to Midland. So I'll just go to Midland, and when using the city state option, just type in the name of the city and hit go. And then it will come up with all the Midlands. And of course, you would just want to scroll down to Texas here. And then I'm going to grab my lifestyle indicators. And here's my charitable donors. And what's important to understand, there is a scoring system here of 0 through 9. We will only show you records of people who are active in whatever category you may have selected. So in this case, it's 6 to 9. So if I look at charitable donors only, I can, and I would do it one per household versus receiving multiple records at the same address. So across Midland, as it relates to one per household, I have a total of 10,007. And this is exactly what their records are going to look like. And notice right off the bat, it does give you this information about these lists. This list may be on the do not call list, so you shouldn't be using these phone numbers for any type of solicitation. And I would add to that, unless you get a clean list. We can do that for you. You could just contact us and we'll ask you what kind of parameters we need to consider, and then we'll sell you that list. Or you can go directly, you could download this information and go directly to the do not call registry. They also charge, but then you could have that list cleaned by them. So here's what that record's going to look like. It's going to give you this address information. Now, we're not call verifying this with James, but everything that we have seen, it appears he's married. Been in this home for about 12 years. There's that neighborhood information. So we get this census information, and then we make some adjustments to that information. And then there are the lifestyle indicators. The only reason this record came in is because he is a charitable donor. Now, we could go back here to and do a search for catalog shopper, for example. This record may not come up because it doesn't score in that 6 to 9 range. So just know, because you see this here, doesn't mean that that also equates to that same kind of activity that we have with charitable donor. Any questions? I need to stop at this point, but I would love to be able to answer any questions you might have as it relates to this module or the business module, or for that matter, any of the others. They all search the same way. The same processes and same tools are in each of them. Any questions?
So we don't have any questions in the chat box, but if anyone who's able to unmute and wants to verbally ask a question, you can go ahead and do that.
Let me do this. I am going to simply go back to the, actually, I'll close this guy and I'll go from right here. And I want to go back to the library's homepage so I can show you where to find us. So when you come into the library here, you can come into under digital resources. And then I just went over here to databases A to Z, clicked there. And then I just want to, for reference solutions to the letter R, clicked there. Here's my reference solutions. And then when you click on that, it's automatically verifying that I'm already in because I already logged in. But you would be asked to put in your library card number, accept our terms and conditions, and then you would have access. If there are no questions, I will certainly, I want to share my appreciation for your attending today. And I want to put out in the chat box, I'll include my email address. And if you would like to reach out, if you would like some assistance with a search or whatever it might be related to the database, I would be happy to assist you. And you can always contact us as well. Under the Learning Center, our contact information is there, and it's also at the bottom of this page. So there's our 800 number as well as our email address. But if you would like to reach out to me directly, know that you can certainly do so.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Bill, for your presentation. I certainly enjoyed it. And I hope that Reference Solutions comes in handy for a lot of our nonprofits around Midland. I know they could really get some benefit from it.
Exactly. It's amazing. It's all about information, right? It's about need for data.
It is, yeah. It's a good way to get in touch with people.
Thank you, everyone, for your time today, and enjoy the rest of your Thursday. We're almost to that magic day of Friday, so I wish you a happy weekend as well.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Bill.
everyone. Goodbye.